gentlemen, and welcome to my review of the first episode of the second season of Assassination Classroom. That's right, my friends, everyone's favorite superpowered moon-destroying octopus teacher, Koro Sensei, has returned. He's gonna teach us about life, love, and how to take a knife and to jam it into someone's forehead. Word to the wise, those going into this series right here need to know that this is an exact continuation of the first season of Assassination Classroom. It literally picks up where the last episode left off, so if you haven't seen the first season, I would highly recommend going and checking it out. It is a lot of fun, it's action-packed, and it's just plain unique and ridiculous. Now, Assassination Classroom, of course, is based on the very popular manga series. It spawned a live-action movie series as well as an anime version. I have not seen any of the other iterations aside from the first season of the anime, so I'm going into this series blind and I have no idea what to expect. What I can say is the first episode of the second season is very much like the first. In fact, it really doesn't skip a beat. It really gets back to the main characters, what they're about, and as they get ready to go into the second term as they try to kill Koro Sensei. Because the whole story is that Koro Sensei is this super-powered octopus creature, which apparently has the ability to destroy moons and planets, and he's basically told the citizens of Earth, look, if you guys can't assassinate me in 1 year's time, everything's gotta go. The stipulation, of course, however, is that he's going to be teaching a young group of middle school students the art of assassination, and they're the ones who are really going to have to try and pull off the job. Of course, there's probably another secret motive here. They haven't gotten to that quite yet, but mixed in with all of this ridiculousness is a lot of action, enduring characters, and of course, lots of comedy. So what exactly is this episode of Assassination Classroom all about? Well, basically it's just a reintroduction to all of the different students of Class 3E, as well as the teachers, Koro Sensei, Karasuma, and everybody's favorite Professor Bitch. I said it in the first season, I'll say it again. It is awesome having a character with the name Bitch. The first half of the episode is pretty much just straight-up comedy, just being reintroduced to Koro Sensei, and the fact that not only does he want to teach his students, he wants to have fun and mess with them at the same time, and he also happens to be something of a matchmaker. He wants to do everything in his power to try and bring some of these students together in a nice lovey-dovey relationship, and of course that's because Koro Sensei has another key weakness. That's right, Koro Sensei's 12th weakness is that he loves juicy stories. While it's definitely kind of creepy that a teacher would be somewhat interested in what his students were doing in their off time, especially when they were trying to start relationships, Koro Sensei can kind of get away with it, only for the fact that he can pretty much do whatever he wants. He's a superpowered being. However, this scene leads to a lot of funny moments, because his whole plan is that he's going to lead all of the students into this dark cave, try to creep them out so that they'll get closer together. The thing is, his plan ends up backfiring because he himself ends up getting creeped out by all of the students who all look surprisingly disturbing in this dark cave, like shit right out of The Ring. It's amazing how the most ridiculous playful things always end up being Koro Sensei's weakness. This just so happens to be his 24th weakness. As expected, he is spooked by the supernatural. After Koro Sensei fails with his younger students, he decides to try and pair up Karasuma with Professor Bitch, which has not exactly disastrous results, but it is actually kind of funny, and it's more of just an excuse to see some fan service from Professor Bitch. However, this is an important scene because we do get a small glimpse of her backstory, where apparently she was a young girl living on the streets, doing everything to survive. Killing to live, which is a very big theme of the show. This is an element of the series that I really like. I don't know if they're going to build upon this as the series goes on. However, it does add a little bit more depth to Professor Bitch and makes her seem a little bit more than just like a fan-servicey character who's really bouncy. This is a really funny scene because it also parallels Koro Sensei because we get to see one of Karasuma's weaknesses, which is he's denser than dense. That's a pretty good explanation of the character. That being said, I still wouldn't want to mess with Karasuma. He could fillet you with a frickin' crayon. The rest of the episode is when things start to get a little more interesting. We have a nice scene at the end which sort of caps off the entire summer. All of the students and Koro Sensei getting ready to go to a big summer festival, which means kimonos, fireworks, and lots of ridiculous carnival games, as well as getting to see some of our other favorite characters. I especially loved the callback to the first season with the characters of Chiba and Ayame, who won all of these prizes and were kicked out because of their shooting skills, something that was highlighted in the last season. You also have have Karma, who is completely ripping off all of the carnival game owners. You have Koro Sensei, who's running all of these food stands all at the same time because of his supersonic speed. Professor Bitch using her assets to get free drinks. Not to mention the student of Isugai, who's very good at doing that weird, like, catching goldfish game, except that he's catching all of them to eat them. That's disgusting. Now, while all of these scenes are very heartwarming and nice, and it's really good to see all of the students hanging out with Koro Sensei before we get into the second semester where things are going to get way more dangerous, there are some very other important scenes to this episode. One, we get to see Nagisa hanging out with his parents, which I don't even remember seeing any of that from the first season, just him hanging out with his dad, having some sushi. It's a nice scene, and it's just good to see a little bit more of Nagisa's life, because by default, he's basically the main character of the show next to Koro Sensei. Another big scene, of course, is when Koro Sensei is going around trying to invite people. He tries to call Lovero, and he tries to invite him over to this big summer festival, but he's busy on a mission, when suddenly, in the middle of this big foggy street, this weird assassin just walks up to him, points his finger at him, and suddenly Lovero is on the ground, seemingly dead and defeated. I don't think he's dead quite yet, but this is obviously an introduction to the character of the Reaper, the god of death himself, who I imagine is probably going to play a very big role, not only in the season, but also probably going to have something to do with the origins of Koro Sensei as well. Whether that's going to happen or not, we're just going to have to wait and see. All I know is that was definitely the biggest development from this episode. The scene of Koro Sensei going around to different people and begging them to come to this summer festival is really funny. Just him getting all over emotional, and of course that leads to another one of his weaknesses. And that leads us to weakness number 25, where Koro Sensei thinks that a poor turnout means he's worthless. So what's the rundown on the first episode of the second season of Assassination Classroom? I'm just glad it's back. I'm just so glad the series is back again. This was one of those anime and manga that when I first saw it for the very first time years ago in manga form, I just completely dismissed the series. I'm like, nah, that's not really for me. There's just something about the big smiley face and all the ridiculous bubbliness that just doesn't really appeal to me. However, I think that's one of the greatest things about Assassination Classroom. How it can do this sort of juggle between drama and comedy, and then suddenly we have this intense assassination show. It's a really nice juggling act that the series does a great job of performing. But this episode, for the most part, was straight comedy and a reintroduction to all of the classic characters from the series, and they were all there in full force, and it really felt like a great continuation of the first season of the series, which I loved quite a bit. I hope we're going to get more revelations in this series, and I think we're going to get that. There's a lot of build-up to that in this episode. It's also worth noting that this season of Assassination Classroom is going to have more episodes than the first. Not that many more, I think just an extra 3 episodes, but that's going to help a lot in the development department, and I really hope that they're going to take advantage of that to get more characterization, focus on characters that we didn't see, give us more action, and maybe even get an explanation as to what the hell Koro Sensei actually is. On the technical side of things, this episode right here is exactly like the first. Same animation, same artwork, same voice actors. If you liked it in the first season, you're going to like it here. It does a serviceable job, it's not off-putting, it's all pretty damn good looking. The best thing about this episode, of course, are the jokes. They are lightning fast. There are so many of them in this episode. Not to mention all just the little smaller moments, like Karma playing a One Piece game on its 3DS, or the fact that there's an Attack on Titan reference in this episode, which is not so subtle. There's also a brand new intro for the series, which does a serviceable job of introducing you to all of the characters. I love the fact that they have all of the names of the characters, because it is kind of hard to keep up with all of these characters, especially because some of them aren't even in the forefront all that much, and even I had to remind myself of who some of these people were at the very beginning, but about halfway into the episode, it literally just felt like I was watching more Assassination Classroom, and frankly, I think that's what the fans really wanted from the beginning. So Assassination Classroom is back, and you should definitely check it out if you are a fan of the first season. I know I'm definitely going to be checking out every episode this season, and I will be reviewing every single one for you guys, so make sure to check them out. Now, this episode was not exactly perfect. I wish we would have had a little bit more happen, maybe get off the island earlier and get ready to get in some of the brand new material, but as a first episode of the second season, this one did a pretty good job of reminding people who these people are, what they're doing, and why they're doing it, as well as getting us pumped up for some of the events which are going to be happening later on in the series. So I'm going to give the first episode right here a 4 out of 5. A pretty fun episode of Assassination Classroom, which anyone who's a fan of Ass Class should definitely check it out. If you did watch this week's episode, I would love to hear your thoughts about it, and you can tell me in the comment section below. Did you have a favorite character from this episode? A favorite moment? A favorite comedy moment? Was Lovro really killed by the Reaper? Is the Reaper finally going to make his full appearance in this season? What do you want to see from the rest of Assassination Classroom? Make sure to tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!